this evening's show. It's a little bit early. So I'm not going to jump straight into it. We're not going to get going straight off the bat. So we'll let everybody else join in, and then we'll really start. So there you go. We'll get going. So I'm really excited that this is working, as a matter of fact, because we stream to both Twitch and to YouTube at the same time, in case you didn't know. So you can watch it on. Is the mic volume really low? Is it really low? Okay, hang on a second. I'll do that for you, and then I'll do that, and then I'll. No, I don't like seeing it. Can I raise it up a little bit and turn it a bit? How about that? That's as good as it's got. It is very low, isn't it? Oh, hang on a moment. You know, it's so weird. I said it the other day. That's what I was doing. I was doing the podcasts, and wait a moment. I was doing the podcast, and I used a different program for the podcast. Yeah, look at that. How did it go to there? You should all now be able to hear me. And Windows has got its own internal microphone setting, but I suspect that is linked to gaming. And I was using my mic the other day. I was trying out a new computer game. I don't know if you guys play computer games. I do. I find them as a nice distraction when I have the time. I don't often get to play them. So I was trying out this new thing called Spellbreaker. Spell something. Anyway, I Spellbreak. It's quite fun. It's diverting and that sort of thing. But I do think that it's very buggy, because I don't know why my microphone volume would have dropped like it did, because that was quite a significant drop too. It was at 23 as opposed to 80, which is where it's supposed to sit. Anyway, all right. So welcome. So YouTube is no longer allowing you to do just random live events. You have to actually now plan them ahead of time. And so there was a big contention as to how that would work. And I see that it is now working because, well, we have people from YouTube as well as from Twitch. So something's working, and hopefully, touch wood, that it stays like that. So there you are. All right. So if you are going to ask a question, please put the word question in front of your question in great big bold caps. That would be absolutely lovely, wonderful if you could. I know that all of the World Anvil folk won't be raiding us tonight, because World Anvil is in transit. That's right. I thought I was anyone who was moving my life all over the planet. So yes, hopefully we'll see some people from World Anvil, or maybe they're just taking a break, getting ready for what is it? Whatever it is. November is writing month, where you write a micro novel, it's hopefully going to be inspirational for a lot of people. I know it's lots of work, but it is very, very rewarding. I'd love to do it if I had the time. I would love to do it, absolutely love to do it. But November is going to be a busy month for us, I suspect. Very busy month. Right, so Gristles has got a question. How much further before the stream must you schedule? Well, today I went in at about 10 minutes to and did the scheduling on Restream, and because you can't just go live now. So I did that, and then I started going live 5 minutes later. So it doesn't look like it's too worried about that. It does look like it just needs to know that it's going to happen, rather than just ad hoc suddenly starting. So there you are. Tesla Ranger said, what problems did you have moving re the pandemic? I moved before it, to be honest with you. So I didn't have any problems. I arrived in January. There we go. Draco Vale, lost your voice during the stream. Well, that's awful. I hope you get it back. I hate when you lose your voice. It's so debilitating. I had that when I got here, and when we did the Circle of World Builders, I lost my voice at the end of that, and that was absolutely awful. So Ben Nicholson, could you plan a minute ahead of time? You probably could, but I'm not that good. I mean, I barely plan on what's going to happen next, let alone what's happening in the minute or so. But there you go. Stamps, so I see you're chatting about Spellbreaker. It's like Fortnite, but with magic. Yes, it is. You're casting magic spells, and what I like is that it's based on the elements. And if you cast 2 of the spells, let's say an ice spell and then a lightning spell, it electrifies the ice. So it turns the ice into electric field. So that was quite fun. So that's obviously, that's diverting, but it is incredibly frustrating. I won the other day. I was in a dual team. Anyway, that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about your role-playing questions and the like. So if you've got a question, there we go. Richard Crack has a question. And Richard Crack says, I have a 5-year-old son who is interested in Dungeons & Dragons. I've been introducing a simplified version of D&D, but I wonder if you have any recommendations or experience on introducing RPGs to kids. So I don't personally have much experience in terms of doing that. So, but a very good friend of mine, Dead Aussie Gamer, he does do that. And his advice always with kids is to keep it very clear cut, try and avoid grey areas, try and make sure, of course, that all of it is sorry, gone completely blank here. So yes, clear cut, make sure the objectives are very simple, very straightforward, but at the same time, don't be afraid to explore slightly more mature themes and ideas and that sort of thing, because the kids are getting it already anyway. And try and avoid duplicity in terms of the NPC. So if they're evil, make them evil. If they're good, make them good. And the backstabbing stuff, leave that out as far as I'm concerned. And then the other piece of advice that I was given was plan for bursts of about 20 minutes. And then sort of take a break and that sort of thing, based on the kids, of course, as well. They might not want to take a break, but that's what I have learned, is to take a break and then not to be too much of a stickler to the rules. Let the kids' imaginations wander free. At the age of 5, they don't really, the games and things that they're doing at the age of 5 are very, very straightforward. Another option for you to do, by the way, now that I think about it, I'm trying to think, what was I like when I was 5 years old? An absolute nightmare. But I was watching He-Man and the Master of the Universe, and I know that you can watch those episodes now on YouTube. I don't know if it's legal or not, so I might just be giving some illegal advice here. But buy the box set of He-Man and the Master of the Universe, the original 1984 version, because that was designed for kids aged between somewhere around 4 to 5, 6, 7, and 8. And when you look at those plots, they're very straightforward, and they often have plot holes, which I think the kids are going to be generating more than you will. So I would certainly draw inspiration from that. There are only 184 episodes, so if you can't get inspiration from those 184, then I think you're going to be in trouble. But that would be my suggestion. Having said that, though, I haven't ever played with any players under the age of, I think, probably, well, it would have been 13, which would have been my friends at the time, but I was the same age. So in my capacity as an adult, I think I once played with a player who was 12, and we did a very simple adventure, but it was just the idea of getting them into that. Imtheran says, I'm going to be adding a new player to my campaign soon. I planned on doing a series of session zeros with him. Sorry, it's a very long question. What are some suggestions or ways to get that new character comfortably up to equal level with the other players and caught up on the happenings in the world? Imtheran, I would say that if you want to work through those levels, which is not a bad idea at all, I don't think it's a very bad idea at all, in terms of playing through the levels and that sort of thing. But I do think that you're giving yourself a little bit of a disservice. You're giving your players a bit of a disservice as well. Sorry, I see there's an extra bit of fly in my coffee, and they're very clean creatures, little gnats, from what I've been told. But hell, I come from a country where they eat bugs, and so it's not going to stop me from drinking my cup of coffee. Freak out now if you like. I mean, he was doing the backstroke, so it means he's obviously some sort of gnat of breeding. So I would, Imtheran, I would propose to the rest of your players that they play their characters at the appropriate level of this new one that you're adding, and that these are quests that took place in between their primary quests. And the reason for doing that is that when you have a new player joining your group, it's not so much about getting their character to join the party, it's about getting the player to join their fellow players. So if you say, okay, cool guys, so we've got this new person joining, I'm going to run them at level 1, so make versions or find versions of your character at level 1. And this is a side quest that happened when you guys were resting that one night in the tavern. This is actually what happened that night. And go back and do it as a bit of a montage. And then they split ways, and then they come back again and they do level 4 or level 3, because you can jump. You don't have to do every single level. And then you can jump, I would say, 2 or 3 levels at a time, and do these sort of flashbacks until eventually you catch up with the right level. And they oh look, there's Throthgar. We've been fighting with Throthgar now for years. We all know Throthgar. He walks into the party and off you go. It's more about getting the players to have fun than anything else. That would be my immediate suggestion. Now, by the way, if I don't answer your question, if you're new to the show, if I don't answer your question, please feel free to ask it again until I do, because that's the point. And again, please write the word question in front of your question. Hello, Laura Bones. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All should live in fear of Laura Bones. She has all the power in Twitch. Anyway, YouTubers, you're safe. Anyway, good to see you, Laura. Okay, so Bring Potatoes says, are there new systems on your radar that are catching your eye at all? Well, I have been doing the Dark Eye review, Bring Potatoes. If you haven't gone to my main channel, that's youtube.com/how to be a great game master. Very long title, but it's all that we could get back in those days. I have been doing a review of the Dark Eye, Das Schwarze Auge, which is a German role-playing TTRPG based off of first edition D&D and then evolved into its own wonderful space. I've got a playthrough of coming up, as a matter of fact, in a couple of weeks' time. That's going to be very interesting. Then there's another Kickstarter that's dropping. It's a 1930s Kickstarter that's coming out. I'll be doing more on that. Very, very briefly, though. I've got the rule book. I haven't read it yet. And then something very interesting from another German games company, Pegasus Spiel, who are doing a collaboration with a major games publisher to do a role-playing game of this particular one. I can't reveal the name of it yet. I'm under NDA, and the role-playing system hasn't even come out yet. I think it's been announced, but I don't think it's come out yet. It's launching towards the end of October, so for the month of October, I'll be looking at that one. And then, yeah, so there's more in the future. I can't say too much now, but there's definitely more coming up in the future. And I think that's very exciting for all of us, because we get to see and experience these different role-playing games and learn from them and find things that we like and things that we don't like. Painful DM says, in vids, you're often said that you don't use published adventures as written. That's right. Do you use them for plots, NPCs, story ideas? I find them helpful, but using your 3-act structure is more helpful than using as written. I will be absolutely frank with you. I don't really even refer to written material. If I do, it's because someone's paid me to do it, and that's the honest truth. When you look at the Ghosts of Saltmarsh campaign that I ran them for WotC themselves, and I used not even a fifth of the material that was in that book. Not because I didn't want to, but because I read it and I went, oh, that's an interesting idea. Oh, I like that idea. And I took inspiration basically from it and then ran with it. But if you look at something like Curse of Strahd, I ran Curse of Strahd as a private game, as a birthday gift for somebody. And I have to say, when I was reading it, I was like, well, that's tropey. That's nice. It's nice to have that codified rule. The only thing that I liked out of it was the tarot cards, which then became so freaking complicated that it didn't really make sense. Yeah. So long and short of it, I don't. And if I do read them, it's with a passing look, going, oh, that's interesting, and then you move on. So I don't. I've never needed that sort of thing. I've never had training on that sort of thing, if you like. I've always been in groups where we've made up our own. So there you go. Okay, next question. I'm loving the questions, guys. Keep them coming. Preston Simpson says, do you run many WotC adventures or do you stick to homebrew campaigns? I've been thinking about venturing out into homebrewing my own world, been running my games in the Forgotten Realms. So, Preston, I think you pretty much got your answer there. I did the Gods to Saltmarsh. Like I said, I took maybe 2 adventures in total. I'm trying to think about that now. 2 adventures in total and sort of hacked bits out that I didn't need, or dropped bits, I should say. And I did the Descent into Avernus, or Avernus, as people like to say. I say it's Avernus. Anyway, they dropped into Avernus, and again, I even remade the map. I wasn't even happy with the map that they had in their campaign setting. So I homebrew. And there's a whole lot of reasons for it. A, it makes it more interesting for you as the GM. You're exploring your world as you're going along with the players. So I don't pre-generate vast amounts of material. I am a GM under construction. My world is definitely there to be added on and used and expanded. And if I have a player who's playing a race and they say, what's the custom for the Elvish greeting? I ask them, what's the custom for the Elvish greeting? And then they tell me, and I go, well, that's what it is now. There you go. So I build as we play because you don't really need it beforehand. I don't think. Don't tell World Anvil that. But that's me personally. I then go to World Anvil and log that stuff in. So that's my usual process. Oh. Wow. Lots of fireworks outside. Right. Jose Ramirez says, 2 of the PCs are following a murder mystery. A girl led them to find a were-tiger. As a twist, he was framed and the girl is actually the murderer. Should the girl be a hag in disguise? It's an interesting one. And I would say that if you haven't hinted at it, then I would say no. So if you haven't dropped some clue that she's smarter than that she is, or I would say that she wouldn't be a hag in the disguise, but I would say, why is she trying to frame the were-tiger? What does she have against were-tigers? That for me is more interesting. Is she a were-bear or a were-rabbit or a were-wolf, or is she a wear-and-tear? I don't know. I mean, whatever. Why is she framing the were-tiger? And how did she manage to pull it off? Did she pull it off on her own? Was she operating with a group? There are lots of questions, I think, that come out of it, rather than, oh, she's a hag. That's to me, has neither here nor there. The important questions are, have you got a solid reason why she is framing the were-tiger? And how does she think she's going to pull it off? And how do you get the were-tiger off of the hook? Those, I think, are very interesting questions. Laura Bones, the police are coming for you. Yes. No, they're not. They're not coming for me. No, they're just not coming for me. That's it. They're not coming for me because I'm just too heavy. I'm kidnap proof. Stampson says, I'm struggling with the adventure planner getting building. My phrase is, Zakadar wants the crystal of colours to make a world for monsters, but he has difficulties, PCs, because of the PCs. Can you help a little? All right, so Zandakar wants the crystal of colours to make a world. The crystal of colours I would immediately have as being broken up into 7 different crystals. So the build phase of that step that you're talking about, the getting phase, let's put it that first. The getting phase would be assembling those 7 crystals. And I say 7 because there's 7 colors of the rainbow, and supposedly those are the basic colors. So first he has to get all 7, right? And if he can't get all 7, then he needs to use, let's say, 5 of them. So if the PCs get 2 and he gets 5, he can still keep going. Which gives him plenty of opportunity to attack the PCs, to try and sabotage them and steal it from them, and all those kind of wonderful things. But then that's your getting phase, isn't it? Get the 7 crystals. And each one of those could be a very different type of mission. One could be a treasure hunt to find the buried crystal. One could be a collection where go and fetch the crystal from the ancient artificer who will hand it over to you, etc. So that's the getting. And then the building is putting the crystals together. and testing that they work in the right combination to create this world and that sort of thing. So I think that could be a very useful approach to take. That would be my off the top of the head suggestion. Lockfun1995 says, have you made any homebrew custom system dedicated to sci-fi, D20 or D100? And do you have any advice for such an endeavor? Firstly, James Park's got an excellent suggestion. 1 crystal is on auction. So there you go. You already got 3 adventures for those 7 crystals. So you certainly shouldn't be down and out about that one. Okay, so back to Lockfun 1995. Have you made any homebrew custom system dedicated to sci-fi, D20 or D100? So to answer you, yes, I have. It's called the Tri-Fi system, based off of my fantasy role-playing system called the Tri system. Both are still very much in an alpha stage and have been for the past decade, but are moving swiftly forward. We've actually been playing it on, you're on Twitch, but if you head on over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/GreatGMLive, you will see that there are 7 sci-fi episodes that make use of my Tri-Fi system. And people had a lot of fun with that. So I think that is it's something to look forward to. In terms of advice on doing such an endeavor, the biggest thing that you need to figure out, I would say anyway, is in terms of sci-fi, what do people expect when they talk about sci-fi, is we expect starships. So whatever system you're designing, make sure that starships are part of that process and are usable. So there you go. Xander the Green. Hello, Xander. Did you get my message? I think you actually responded to me on Discord, so that's fantastic. I have your book ready to go, and I will be delivering that on, well, I will be sending it on Monday, so thank you so much for your patience on that. You have a question. I am contemplating making the next week or so in-game truly grueling by making it so the PCs are unable to take more than a short rest due to an influx of demonic activities. Should I do it? I would, but I would also, at the beginning of it, have the PC stumble across this old NPC who says, I have fought these demons before. This is a test of our strength more than anything else. These attacks will last most likely for 7 days and 7 nights. We must just weather them as best we can. Give the players a time frame for when it's going to stop, because if it isn't going to stop, or if the players think it isn't going to stop, they're going to be going, I want this to stop, and they will no longer be having fun with your game. Excuse me. So give them a reason, give them some kind of indicator that this is going to run out and that they shouldn't be too worried. Because otherwise, yeah, they're gonna suffer. Okay, Ben Nicholson has an awful question for me because it's one of those ones that I should know the answer to, but don't. Why do you think 7 is used so much in history? 7 Hills of Rome, 7 Deadly Sins, 7 Wonders of the World, 7 Samurai. Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I think it's because it's a tiebreaker. It's like, well, the 6 Hills of Rome. Well, what are they arranged in? Like a hexagon. Whereas if it's 7, you know that it could possibly be, 6 around and then 1 in the middle. And when you go with 7 deadly sins, it's like, well, the 8th deadly sin, which was watching live YouTube shows, it wasn't such a big thing back then when it was being created. So they left that one out. They're like, well, it's only going to take place in a couple thousand years. No, we'll leave it out. People catch up. So to be perfectly frank with you, I know that 7 is auspicious for a lot of different cultures. Lucky number 7 in gaming and that sort of thing often comes up. So I think, I think that's where it comes from. To be perfectly honest with you, I think it's just a lucky number, 7. And I mean, I might say, which do you prefer, 7, 6, or 8? And you go, well, 6 is a bit wishy-washy, really. And 8. 8's too weird a number. I mean, it's like, what is it? It's like 8. It's like, no, but that's what you do when you're doing food, right? So I think 7's a much nicer number. And 7 with a line through it. That's how I write my 7s. I don't know if any of you know, but you write a 7 as a stroke across and then down. I do a stroke across and then down, and then I cross through the stroke of the 7, because I was once shown that that's how they used to write the number 7 back in the old days to differentiate it from the number 1. And And I thought that was pretty damn good. So when I have to write down the number 7, I usually do that. So yeah, I think that 7 is just an interesting one. There's probably people who out there who know the Fibonacci code, and 7 is probably there. Yeah, so there you are. Okay, on to the next question as I fumble through that one. Yeah, let's see. Lucky Pradi says, do you have any experience with Curse of Strahd? And would you recommend it as a campaign setting for people new to D&D, but not new to TTRPGs? I would say that Curse of Strahd is so far from Dungeons and Dragons that it is... I wouldn't say it's a good introduction to Dungeons and Dragons, to be perfectly honest with you. I would say that it is a very different game altogether. Firstly, it's not set in any kind of official Dungeons and Dragons... Well, it's set in this little pocket space called Barovia, which is basically just Transylvania. Curse of Strahd for me is... Dracula, the story of Dracula by Bram Stoker with D&D rules. So I think that it's a lot of fun. It's deeply atmospheric if you want to run it that way. There are lots of fun things to do in it, and you will be using the mechanics of Dungeons and Dragons, but you won't actually be playing your traditional Dungeons and Dragons kind of game. I don't think. That's me personally. So is it good to start with for people who want to get into D&D? Arguably, I would say no. I would look at something like the Mines of Fendelvir, or what was the next one that they released? Help me, folks. But yes, it's that's what I would look at. Something along those lines. I would go somewhere else. I don't do Descent into Avernus. That's definitely not. Actually, that could be one. But I found that one very, very difficult, very tough. The only one that I would recommend is Mythic Odysseys of Theros, but that's not Dungeons and Dragons at all. That's just Greece. Yeah, Mines of Fendelvir or the Essentials Kit. Thank you, DM Sky. The Essential Kit, or yeah. So have a look at those options for you. Okay, next question. New Key ID 9. I'm being facetious. Says, when the rest of the party, 4 out of 6, only ever murder-hobo, what can I do as a player? Even my lawful evil PC isn't as bad as their chaotic good neutral actions. They murder-hobo everything. New Keyed 9, I would raise it with your group and say, listen guys, are we just going to kill everything that we come across? In which case that's absolutely fine. Except that that's what they want to play, except that that's how they want to play. And then I would suggest find a different group, to be perfectly honest with you. If it doesn't fit your playing style, don't be afraid to move on and find different groups. And yeah, I would definitely say that RPGtablefinder.com. I'm punting that because it's something that we developed for you guys to find new players in. It's free. You can find people all over the world and hook up with them and figure out what's your playing style and what type of game do you want to play. But if the guys don't know that they're just murder-hobing, if they don't know that there's another option, that could be it as well. Or if the GM keeps having people that they defeat come back and backstab them and betray them and that sort of thing, then it's more of a function of the GM than anything else. So I would speak to your group first, ask them a question in terms of, hey, is this really... You know we kill everything, right? You know we kill everything. Is that really what we want to do? G-Master says, any advice for me any advice for me as an American writing a game set in Australia? Yes, avoid all the cliches about Australia. The Australians are a lovely, caring, friendly, nice, completely no, I can't continue. I can't hold that live for a long time. I generally find that Australians are like other human beings, usually. Until you actually start talking to them and you realize that they're definitely Australian and should stay where they are. No, my actual advice for writing about Australia is that there are two major aspects to Australian wildlife that everybody knows about, but that make it very different. So if you were to visit South Africa or if you were to visit Australia, there are more weird creatures by definition in Australia than there are in Africa. Both will have animals that will kill you. So if you're making a setting on Australia, make sure that you have got lots of very deadly animals. Don't stick with guidelines like, oh, the snake gives you 1d4 constitution damage. Snakes in Africa and Australia, if they bite you and you are an adult human being, if you don't get attention within several hours, you usually die. And that's a pretty good, healthy human being. So I would make the monsters much more terrifying. But then you think about the marsupials that they have, the platypus, the echidna. Well, the echidnas, I suppose, technically. No, the echidna, you look at all of those weird and wonderful creatures, and then you draw on that. Now, if you go and look at the ancient beasts, the ancient marsupials, gigantic, terrifying things, I would draw inspiration from that. I would also make sure that you have a people who are very down to earth, who are very much about enjoying life when they can, but who are hardworking, because that's also something that comes across from that. And then don't forget, you have that wonderful thing called a walkabout, which the Australian Aborigines use, and their gods live in dream time, in the dreams of people. That's a wonderful plane to have, or something to have invested into your setting. So I would look at that as well. Think about dream time and walkabouts. So yeah, definitely do that. Okay, where are we? Yes, lots of jokes about the Australians. We love the Australians. We really do love the Australians. Grizzle says, what does the redeeming of the... I'm sorry, I couldn't read your question. It got all gumbled up and garbled and that sort of thing. And Laura Bones, make him go away. Make him go away now, Laura Bones. Make him go away. No, I'm joking. So, Grizzles, I will now be absolutely honest with you. I thought I was going to do something fun and cool, and I had completely and utterly misread how you use the emoticons and that sort of thing. So I will be working with, hopefully, actual professional people in the near future to try and figure out what is going on, and to make it actually mean something, because I made all of those little figurines, as I do a lot of the art. I made them, and then I thought I knew what they were for, and then I didn't. So that's my true confession. Laura Bone says the emotes are easy, so I'm going to hopefully bribe her with scones and jam and cream, to help me out on that one. So there you are. Okay, how are we looking? It's only half an hour in. We've got half an hour to go. Let's go back to your questions about role-playing. Absolutely. Hey, guy, enjoying the show, says Funny Science Fiction Podcast. Oh, there we go. Hello, Funny Science Fiction Podcast. How are you guys doing? One day, so Funny Science Fiction Podcast will one day be on the show, as a matter of fact. Not one day, it's coming soon. Absolutely awesome people doing some amazing stuff for charity. So they will be coming in with us, which is great. But yes, so where we are. I'm getting lost in the chat. So Dr. Spectre 66 says, running players with different goals during a campaign. It's a tough one, and you need to do it very delicately, but I would suggest that you tell your players beforehand. Say, listen, guys, I know you all have differing objectives. However, this is not a group play of 5 one-on-one games, and that's not the purpose of this particular campaign. So, I will work each adventure to a character's objective. The rest of you will go along to support your friend, and then you will eventually get to your objective, and we will then work on your objective. And I would cycle through that. So if you've got 5 players, you've got 5 adventures, each one getting to move their own personal objective forward, and then you do another 5, and then you do another 5, and you build it up that way, because otherwise you're going to have people running in different directions and splitting up and doing all that kind of crazy stuff, and really it's not fun for anyone. So sometimes it pays to just stop and say, actually, this is not how I'm going to run my campaign, this is how I'm going to run it, and if you don't like it, well, quite frankly, we need to talk about how we're playing this game then, to be perfectly honest with you. That's what I would do. Tommy Fun says, okay, but remember folks, please put the word question in the front of your question so that we can see what's going on. I'm planning a change to the classic Against the Reptile God, whose Spirit Naga villain is missing, in my opinion, some relatable and memorable motivation for her evil deeds. Yes, very good. My take so far is that she wishes to regain immortality lost in the ancient past through the means of Horcruxes, which are built out of the souls of the villagers of Orlane. Okay, good. How can I make her motivation more relatable, however? That's where I'm stuck. Help, please. Well, Tommy Fun, to whom are you making her more relatable? If you want her to be a sympathetic character and that the PCs eventually get, oh no, we won't destroy your Horcruxes, we'll help you get some more because it's so nice, you want to become immortal. Yeah. So I think perhaps what you're looking for is a better reason. Yes, she wants to regain her immortality. Why is she afraid of death? Why doesn't she want to die? I'm afraid of death because I feel, this is in my own personal capacity, I feel I still have a lot to do in terms of helping the world be a slightly better place by having more fun. I don't know if any of my friends are watching. I don't think they are. I often ask myself, why do my friends keep me around? Why do they remain friends with me? I'm quite demanding. I'm quite crotchety. I'm quite sort of, you know, I'm set in my ways, really. And yet my friends keep me around. And I often think it's because I keep them young by being an absolute child myself. So my goal is to live as long as I can and to bring fun to as many people as I can. And so I don't want to die because of that reason. And I don't really like pain. So I think death could be quite painful, you know. So that's another reason why I don't want to die. But neither of those are very honourable goals, in my opinion. It's not like, oh, I want to save the world from cancer or something like that. So I would look at why doesn't she want to die? And then I would use that against her. So maybe she doesn't want to die because there's a whole bunch of ghosts of people that she has sacrificed waiting for her on the other side. Maybe she made a pact with someone who, once she dies, the soul becomes hers. You know, things that the players could then actually use against her in the final battle to make that final battle even more interesting. So that's what I would look at. Richard Crack then asks another question, which is, any recommendations for modern RPG system that would work with fantasy grounds in a dystopian modern world? I haven't used Fantasy Grounds in quite some time, so I'm not sure what RPG systems they have loaded up. However, there are a few that come to mind. One is Stalker, which came out of Finland. There is an English version available. That's a non-dice based system, so that could be quite fun. The other one, which I would always recommend hands down, is D20 Modern. D20 Modern, released by Wizards of the Coast way back when, in the early 2000s, I think, and I absolutely enjoy it. Torchlock, I've never played Shadowrun, so I don't know what that would be like, and I assume Shadowrun would be on Fantasy Grounds. I don't see why it wouldn't be, to be perfectly honest with you. So yeah. Okay. Mascaneer Project says, do you have any quick and simple tips, i.e. keep it short, for playing in a universe that you know very little about? Yes, I do have some quick and simple tips for playing in a universe that I don't know very little about. So that's to keep your answers short and simple. Yeah, I know. Okay, so you don't know the universe. Not a problem. Firstly, make a more combat-based character, a more melee combat-based character. So if it's like science fiction, you can't really go wrong with saying I hit it, I shoot it, I stab it, I fire my laser sword weapon at it. it's a pretty safe bet. But secondly, I would then make your character either very, very self-absorbed in their hobbies and their cultures, or make them from a backwater planet where they don't know very much, so they're asking questions. So to give you two very different examples, one, you have what was her name? In The Fifth Element, the female character, the Fifth Element, well, not the Fifth Element, the container of the Fifth Element, I suppose you could say. What the hell was her name? It's not Lilu. I mean, it was Lilu. I suppose Lilu. So Lilu has no idea about the world that she's in. Everything is new and different, but she's a very quick learner. Lilu. It was Lilu. I wanted to say Lilu, but I thought that didn't make sense. So yes, Lilu. So she didn't know what was going on. And if you look at how she was a fighter, that's what she did. She hit stuff and she killed stuff. So that was a fun journey to go on. The other option to look at, yes, Lilo Dallas Multipass. Oh my God, that film brings back so many memories. It was an awesome film. It really was an awesome film. And in case you didn't know, it was the largest indoor explosion ever captured on film when they're blowing up the staircase on the Floston Paradise ship. So there you go. Bit of trivia for you. So that was one option. The other option is Sherlock Holmes. Whether you watch the Benedict Cumberbatch version or any of the originals, or you actually read the book, Sherlock Holmes actively went out of his way to dismiss irrelevant clutter from his head. So at one point, as an example, Watson was talking about the fact that Saturn was slightly smaller than Jupiter. And Sherlock Holmes shouted at him, telling him that he did not need that irrelevant data in his head because it would never help him to solve his case. So he was incredibly blinkered. So that is another way to do it. Ama Musashi says, picture it, Sicily, 1942. Picture a setting where a neutral lawful lich, I just want world peace, is looking to start a magic academy. A world peace that I run all the mages, for educating non-human creatures and the betterment of their livelihood. But the human societies around him don't like it, obviously, and send troops to sabotage it. As far as diplomacy goes, how can I plot the party's affiliation between the two factions without one trying to backstab the other? The party is going to choose one or the other side. They are going to do that. And the only thing that you can do is... The Lich sounds like he's a cool dude. What's his ulterior motive? Why is he trying to stop us? Now, automatically, my head goes to a scene where the party have got an interview or a meeting with a high-ranking ambassador within the human territories. And the ambassador looks to them and says, whilst the Lich's motivations might seem pure to you, and it may seem to be that... it's good to raise the lesser races up in terms of our magical capacity. Are you aware that he eats children? The party then will either refute it or go and investigate it. You have a choice. Either the Lich does consume children in order to stay alive and feed his rotten soul, or perhaps it's to keep him pure so that he doesn't slip into the forces of evil and all that kind of wonderful stuff, or he doesn't eat children. In which case the party will side with the Lich, or they will side against the Lich. It is very difficult to have two very powerful factions and the party doesn't get involved on either side without the party either ignoring them or choosing a side. So I would say the best way to do it is, if you really want to do it that way, is to have the one side seem good and then betray the party, and the other side seem good and then betray the party. The problem is that the party are going to fall between both of them and they say, well, they screwed us over and they screwed us over, so let's screw them both over and topple the human kingdom whilst destroying the academy. So I would definitely look at that. The next question, GM Brightside, is any cow homework getting reviewed today? GM Brightside, we can go back to that, but everybody wanted to go back to creative writing. So I've got some creative writing for us today, but we can take a vote on this. If you would rather I reviewed adventure submissions for the Circle of World Builders, I can do that. If you would rather do creative writing, I can do that. I am here to help you have a better game. So that's exactly what I will do. You guys can choose on that. Watcher2417 says, will there be a book, How to Write a Great Story? A great story? How to write a great story? Well, Watch2417, that's more along the lines of script writing, story writing than anything else. Complete Guide to Epic Campaigns is as close as you'll get on to How to Write a Great Story from an adventure perspective. And the next book that I'm going to be releasing after our map book is on creating a great character, a player character. And part of that, a large part of that, is on creating backstory and creating those kinds of things. So I suppose that's as close as I can get to that, answering that question. Okay, so De Hut says, I have a little question. I have writer's block about my new campaign. My suggestion is, what would happen if a giant banana fell out of the sky wherever it is that you are stuck? What would be the ramifications of that? Would there be individuals that came to collect it? Who threw it? Where did it come from? Why did it land where it did? Start wandering down that path of answering, where did the giant banana come from? And why? And what happened when it landed? And who lost it? And who will take it away? Answer those questions, and that should help you with getting through it. Anyway, you are doing this in the world of Aventuria, the Dark Eyes campaign setting, and the last time the quest giver was arrested for witchery before the rewards were given. Okay. Again, what if a giant banana landed in the sky? Landed on the ground in front of the players? Is that a reward? Where did it come from? Go through those questions. And I know it sounds crazy. But whilst you're thinking about that, you're going, well, the giant banana was dropped by an airship. Oh, but perhaps the airship could be coming to try and save the quest giver. And the airship actually asked the PC for help. Right. So in other words, you're using the giant banana as simply a device to free you up from trying to think of what happens next and causing you to go, well, this has happened. Why did it happen? Where did that come from? And then follow those threads, and you'd be amazed. It's a technique I use all the time. It's like, oh, I don't know where to go. Drop a giant banana in the scene. Okay, the giant banana gets eaten by goblins. Where did the goblins come from? The goblins were watching the shadows. Why did they eat bananas? What happens if one of them is poisoned by the banana? Who poisoned the banana? Why would they poison the banana to kill goblins? And then your mind just starts wandering all over the place, and it's really a lot of fun. So have a look at that. Okay, so Ben Nicholson says he would rather have the cow review. Xander the Green says creative writing. Miskania Project says cow review. So there you go. We're starting to get there. So vote, folks, if you want the review of a submission. And he frantically hopes that he still has them somewhere, because I was moving stuff around on the hard drive over the week. But I can go looking for them, and we can certainly do them from next week. I will find them. Or if you want the creative writing. So yeah, Shadow as Assassin. You need to eat about 2 tons of potassium before you have an actual reaction. So think about that. And that's a lot or it's 2 tons of bananas to get enough potassium to kill a person. That's interesting. Lance Pickett says, each week a different special element. Guest 1 week, creative writing, another, cow, a third, etc., etc. Lots of people say, oh, well, there's Jose Ramirez is voting for creative writing. Lance Pickett's idea is not terrible, I must admit. Switching through it all is actually a pretty good idea. So we could certainly do that. Considering that I had not planned, beg your pardon, to go through a review today, let's rather save that for next week. If I don't have a guest next week, he says, trying to check the date next week. What's next week's date? Oh! Next week is the 26th. Interesting. That's my birthday is on the 28th. That's the Monday. But I'm not celebrating it until mid-October. So the 26th, yeah, let's do creative writing on the 26th. I should have a show then. So not creative writing. We'll do creative writing today, and on the 26th we will do reviews of the material submitted. And remember, if you are part of the Patreon, you can submit more adventures for review, and we will eventually get there. So yes, thank you for the birthday wishes. I turn an awful age, which I feel is at least a decade too many. In terms of what the actual number is, it should be a decade less. I feel, and then I feel that might be a little bit more of an appropriate number. Although I think a lot of people would say that 3 decades less would be actually appropriate. But anyway, that's a whole different story. Have some coffee cake. Yeah, let's go. Let's go to have coffee cake. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm almost actually, age is just a number. I completely agree with you. It really is. But yeah, so it is a number. But I was playing tennis this afternoon, and let me tell you, yeah, my opponent is what? He's a decade younger than I am, basically, and as I was saying, the mind is willing. It's like I need to run over there and hit the ball. But boy, by God, the muscles are going, you have a hope in hell. We haven't even received the message yet to start moving from your backwards brain, let alone actually have the power to haul a carcass all the way across a court. So anyway, it's a lot of fun, absolute lot of fun. But yeah, no, well, Lance, absolutely. You know, it's always a morbid question. And Papal Legate Poepe, I don't know how you pronounce that. I will get to your question, but it's always a morbid question. I mean, my mother is in her 70s now, and my grandfather's in his 90s, and I have this question, and I don't know if they know how to answer it, and I don't know what I will answer when I get to their age. Hopefully, it's what is it like to be closer to death than birth? Is it? It doesn't seem to be galvanizing. If I look at old people, most of the time they seem to slow down. I think if I got to 80, I'd be like going, oh my God, I don't have enough time. I'd probably give myself a heart attack, not having enough time to do all of the stuff that one wants to do. Well, that's a sobering thought. So maybe that's why they slow down. It's like, whoa, we are braking now, because if we go any faster, we might just die from failure of ancient organs. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, these are the thoughts that go through my head sometimes. They really do. Right. So there was a question about how to distinguish grey elves from... See, again, age comes into it. It's like, what's a good way to implement 2nd edition grey elves to distinguish them from high elves? Well, look, grey elves... Now you're getting me to cast my mind back all the way back. Grey elves lived in castles. They didn't live in the trees. They weren't this sort of... They lived in castles, and they were very academic, if I remember correctly. Is that the grey elves? I think that was the grey elves. Or was that the high... Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I would do. Is talk about the architecture, but also talk about the mentality. The Grey Elves were very aloof, and they tried to hold themselves away from society and from the lessers. So maybe that's an option. Make the one much more aloof, a lot more dismissive of the lesser races, and the other one a bit more friendly and approachable. Maybe that will work. I'm not sure. Okay, so we I don't see any more questions being spoken of. Yeah, Violet Hyena says age is a human level, so level 25 versus level 55. I don't know so much about that. I don't know. Because, yes, one has had a lot of life experience. Could you argue that someone who has traveled the world and climbed great mountains and fought off lions and tigers and bears and all that kind of nonsense, do they have more experience than someone who has spent their entire life living in the same city, in the same town, getting married and having children? I mean, is it an equitable increase? And if it is, that's fine, but it doesn't feel like it's fair in a way. I'm not sure. Or would you say, well, you're level 55 in homemaking, but in adventure, survival, extreme sports, you're only level 2. Draco Vale, level 30 procrastinator. Yeah. Lance Pickett, you change your class at level 45 from fighter to sage. I think what you meant to write there was you changed your class from fighter to sag, as everything starts to sag. Anyway, sorry about that. Okay, right. So, writing creative challenge. The creative challenge, I will continue to answer your questions whilst everyone is working on the creative challenge. The way the creative challenge works is I throw out a challenge to you, and then you try and come up with a creative solution or their way or something along those lines. And then you just post it into chat, and I'll go through as many as I can, and we'll sort of discuss them in terms of did they fulfill the brief or not. So today's creative writing challenge is I want you to create a magical book. A magical book, but it is locked, and I want you to have to unlock it by having knowledge of the contents within the book. So in other words, if it is a magical book on fire, you need to be able to unlock it by having knowledge about fire. So you might say the book of fire is locked, and the only way to open it is to throw the book in the fire. That's not particularly practical. To cast fire on it, to hold a candle next to it, that's very straightforward. This is a creative writing exercise. So create a book, a magic book about a specific topic, and knowledge within that topic will cause the book to open. How do you do it without going, this is a book on food, so you have to put food on top of the book? Something could be that the book is about food, and what you need to know about food is that you mix, all your dry stuff together. So if you put a little pinch of flour, a pinch of salt, and a pinch of raising agent on the book will then open. But it's got to be specific. So that's what your writing challenge is today. So I'm going to go back to questions whilst you do that. If you want to participate, you don't have to participate. It's completely voluntary. So Violet Heiner says, I'm a DM. Fantastic. Good. We need lots of DMs. I keep seeing a lot of people online who are thirsting to play D&D. I usually use Roll20 for my players. Do you have any tips for organising games for strangers or newbies? Well, yes. Yes, I do, as a matter of fact. I would head on over to rpgtablefinder.com. I will type this into the chat for you. Okay. rpgtablefinder.com. And that's obviously ww in front of it. So I would head on over there and I would create a game, create a table. It's free to use. Knock yourself out. Create a table and say, I'm looking for new players who are inexperienced players. We've got lots of people. 30,000 people are desperate to go there. Now, we need to grow this space, by the way, because someone was saying to me the other day, it was like, oh, well, I live in the middle of nowhere and I tried to create a table and I didn't get anyone. And you go, okay, where do you live? Oh, well, you live in the north of Scotland. And you go, okay, all right, fine. Of the 30,000 users, 10% come from the UK. How many percent are likely to come? So the more we can grow it, the better. That's why I keep talking about it. It makes it better for all of us. But yes, I would head on over to there and create a table and say that you're looking for youngsters or newbies. And if you want to use Roll20, that's fine. I personally felt it was a bit daunting to load up the character and to work the character and all that sort of stuff. I personally would just use Zoom and let them roll in front of themselves, or you roll for them, or you find a dice roller online that will cover it for you. That would be my suggestion. Okay. Kodesh Kathev Creations says, can it be a book that isn't physically locked but is encrypted? Yes, of course it can. As long as the book is it's locked somehow. So whether it's encrypted or whether it's invisible, or that's it's up to you. Just make it a cool book that needs a thing. Next question. Literal autistic lizard. There we go. Sorry, there was so many A's used. It was like, what vowel is missing? O is missing from that sentence. Otherwise, it's every vowel. So literal autistic, as it says, my lawful good character turned lawful evil by an artifact that broke her connection with her goddess, which was really the only thing holding her to the journey. Should I try to keep her in the campaign in a way that won't feel genuine to me, or talk to my DM about making a new character? How does your character feel about having lost their connection with their goddess? What is your character going to be doing about that freaking artifact? How is your character going to get back to their goddess? I think you're at the moment in the campaign where it's the most exciting and you're about to leave it because you don't feel like it's part of who you are. The paladin won't leave the party that they're with, okay, because they were lawful, at some point they were lawful good. And they said to the party, I will journey with you and I will protect you and that sort of thing. They've now become lawful evil. And they know that they've become lawful evil because there was an artifact that did it. So as a lawful evil character, that lawful is still there. Their word is their bond, usually. A lawful evil character will quite happily say, I will absolutely not kill you if you tell me where the base is. And then once the person tells them where the base is, they then say, right, I'm not going to kill you. Bruno is going to kill you. So they follow their own law, even if it is sometimes a little bit twisted. So I would look at what is the journey back. She's lawful evil, so she has these thoughts to commit evil, to gratify herself. And that's something new. It's like, where did these thoughts come from? Why can't I hear my goddess? I would go on that journey and I would beseech my fellow party members. I would say, listen, something has changed. I feel wrong. I have no desire to help any of you anymore. I'm only doing this out of a sense of my oath was sworn. But I can't feel my goddess. I need help. Please help me. And get the party involved on that journey. Then go on the journey, get your god back, and bingo, you're back on track with this wonderful character development. So that would be my suggestion there. Okay, Unimportant Hero. Hey, how you doing? Unimportant Hero says, a book containing biographies, as well as their most important secret wisdom of the greatest archmages in the world's history. The catch is that you must come to know them personally in order to open the book. Ooh, I like it. I like it. Okay, so you have to know at least all of them or just one of them? I wonder. Because then that could be quite fun. It's like, well, Archmage Joes has died, so that only leaves you with Archmage Anglesby, Vol, and Uguli. Let's see. Yeah, Unimportant Hero, you say it could be a great big quest. It could be. But when they open the book and go, well, now that you have discovered us all, you now know our secrets, you don't need the book anymore. I think I'd stab the GM at that point. So just make sure that there's definitely something worthwhile after that. I saw X-rated and that got my attention. Dragon says, when I play, I give the GM an okay to go to rated X violence if my character has earned it. GM is male and thinks female me is not being honest. What can I say to show him I'm being honest? I don't necessarily think it's a case of he doesn't believe you're being honest. I think it's a case that he's embarrassed of revealing too much of himself to you, to be perfectly honest with you. A lot of people believe that as a GM, what they are doing to your character, what they are saying to your character is a reflection of them. And there is a lot of truth to that. I can only be as evil as my own personal head can get. I can't be more evil. And I can be pretty damned evil. Is that me in real life? Well, no, but there is a part of me which must have thought up that part. So I think that it's more along those lines. And if I were you, the one way that you could do it is graphically describe how you decapitate the orc and watch as the warm blood bathes across your face and down your chest, leaving your bosom stained with the bile of the beast that you have just beheaded. And you can use all of the alliteration that you like. But I would set the tone. I would say, look, this is what I do. What do you do? Let's bathe in the blood. And there was a wonderful scene in Rome, the TV series, which was excessively violent. and not in a stylized way, but in as an authentic way as possible, where they're sacrificing a bull and blood pours down everywhere. It's sometimes you need to just get there. Violent Hyena says, a monster manual that needs to be unlocked by touching it to a dog or killing a spider. Interesting. Okay. Josu Ramirez says, the Book of Chains of Apocrypha can only be unlocked by meditating on a subject for an hour. The book opens to that section, but all knowledge learned burdens your mind. Your brain grows slowly too. Interesting. Book of Chains. Okay, I like that idea. You have to sort of meditate for an hour and then it opens up and you get just that passage and then it closes. You've got to meditate on something else. Okay. Darius Danza says, the Book of the Grove contains great druidic knowledge. To learn its secrets, it must be planted and tended. If done successfully, it will sprout and fruit. The fruit will contain the chapters. Darius Danza, that is wonderful. Brilliant. I love it. I think that's really, really, really great. Xander the Green says, a distorted image of unknown origin is etched into a stone rune tile. Every time the tile is moved correctly, an unholy note is played in the person's mind. When completed, a song plays and it opens. Oh, I think that's really cool. It's kind of like an Ouija board or a Ouija board, and you're sort of moving it around and getting. I like that. Papa Leggett Pope says, so I'm returning to a Dark Sun game where I'm playing a Templar military tribune to a sorcerer king, and I've just totally drawn a blank when it comes to my future political ambitions. Playing as a Templar or a military tribune? Well, to be perfectly honest with you, your future political ambitions, I would suggest, would not to be to overthrow the Sorcerer King, but to become the leader of the Templars under the Sorcerer King. So I would say his true future political ambitions would be to prove to the Sorcerer King that he's worth leading those Templars. That would be my suggestion. Dragon says, the Book of Shadows. To open the book, one must hold it while standing between the light of a star and a candle. Ooh, I like that. Martin Hughes says, a magical recipe book for dishes made from rare and magical creatures. You have to eat the pages to gain the recipe. Oh, that's diabolic. It's like, this is a once-off read. But perhaps, oh, you know what that puts me in mind of? There was a comic book series called Chew. Maybe it wasn't called Chew. Anyway, I think it's called Chew. And it was about a detective whom, if he ate something, he got the entire history of that thing from its death for the past sort of few days or weeks or months, I think. So as a detective, he would go along to a corpse and he would have to eat a little piece of flesh from the corpse. And then he would have whatever the corpse saw, he would then see going back several weeks. So lots of murders happened in the dark. There was, all that sort of wonderful stuff. But it was a very interesting idea. So I would say that, yes, you eat from this book. But if someone eats you, they get the recipes. And thus the recipes are continued, like a hand-me-down cookbook. So that could be interesting. Luki Pradi says, a book of great forgiveness. One needs to accept the fact that the book won't open. Oh, wow. That's a mind bender. That is a mind bender. I like that. Absolutely. I'm having too much fun with this writing exercise. That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Jeff Williams says, I want to start DMing Iron Heroes game. I've never heard of that. What room in Discord can I get in-depth advice? I like the system, but get lost in it. Well, I would check to see if there is an Iron... What was it called? Iron Heroes. I would check to see if there's an Iron Heroes Discord group, to be perfectly honest with you. Otherwise, I suppose you could jump into the group, the Green Dragon, perhaps, and ask there, and then they might suggest it for you. I'm awful in terms of the Discord, I must admit. The Discord goblins are amazing, and I love them all, and they're wonderful, and They do all of those great things. So yes, that would be my suggestion, is to head there. But definitely look, is there. Okay, Muskeneer Project says the Codex of Angular. You must be able to solve various types of geometric problems to unlock it. I would have those geometric problems on the book. And it would be like solve for X if this is this degree and that's that. That would be terrifying. That would be terrifying. So yeah. Have a look at that one. Right, next question. Sammy Gitfiddle. Have we changed now, Sammy? Sammy Gitfiddle says, I'm playing a Goliath barbarian who has a slight obsession with adorable hats. Is there an outlet I could visit that has those items? And is it near a lighthouse? You're not allowed to ask those kinds of questions in this chat. But to be perfectly honest with you, where you are right now, there are lots of hat sellers. Hats are very important to fishermen. Fishermen have some very specific types of hats, let me tell you. So keep an eye out. That would be my suggestion. Lance Pickett says, the ISBN read sneeze. Searching through the stacks, I found the tome I was looking for. Dexter's Book of Pranks. Searching the cover, I found its ISBN number. Knowing Dexter, I immediately replaced the book, knowing well that it was really a book of sneezing, and continued my search. The ISBN read sneeze on a telephone dial. The ISBN reads sneeze on a telephone dial. Okay, I'm probably butchering that one. But yes, okay. I like the idea of the ISBN number, although that is anachronistic. When we say anachronistic, obviously, if your campaign is set in the present day, then that's fine. Anachronistic means that it doesn't belong to the same time frame. So you wouldn't have ISBN numbers, for example, if you were playing in a Victorian time period, or if you were playing in a medieval time period, for example. Okay, I'm going to do one more. We are over time, so there is that. Guys, this has been absolutely fantastic in terms of these responses. Literal Autistic Lizard says, Book of Fearlessness. Must attune to the book, after which your character rolls saving throws at disadvantage for a period of time, X battles or X failures. Once the number set is met, the attuned player can open the book and is immune to fear. I would say for the duration or until a long rest, they're immune to fear. Otherwise, it's really strong, but I think that's really, really cool idea. Absolutely. I keep messing up my creative writing. Should have had more than 3 hours of sleep. Yes, you should have had more than 3 hours of sleep. So that's bad on you. You need at least 7 hours of sleep a day, they say. So I make sure that I get my 7 plus some bonus ones because I can. Anyway, it's nice to see some names here. Sudanin, nice to see you as well. Glad to have you here. And yes, you spell out sneeze on a phone, you get the numbers 7633. Okay, we're still dealing with that. Anyway, folks, it's been an absolute blast tonight. It really has been a lot of fun. And those books, some fantastic books in there. I think they're lots of fun. Really, really, really cool. I do like the ones that you have to eat them. Perhaps that's because I haven't had dinner yet. But anyway, thank you for participating. Thank you for being part of the stream. And I will see you all, if you don't know about the live game on Wednesdays. That takes place at 7 p.m. GMT time. And you can join us for that, where our heroes are in a rather wet and tentacular situation. So that's an interesting one. Otherwise, we will see you again next week when we do more live sessions with a GM. Until then, however, I wish you and yours the very happiest of gaming.